It's just the time of year it is. It's put up or shut up time, and we didn't get the job done today. We accept responsibility for that and the ramifications of it. It's just unfortunate.
And now, time to get in the huddle with your host, Charles Prodigy Ritchie, here on the Mass Steel Podcast.
This thing belongs to Mr. Roney, belongs here, and let's see if we can bring this damn thing back here next year, along with the Super Bowl. Here we go.
The game is over. The Pittsburgh Steelers did it the hard way.
With the 10th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Devin Bush, linebacker, Michigan.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome back to this edition here of the Mass Steel Podcast. Here with me, Charles Prodigy Ritchie. I wish I could say it's been a better Monday other than that. As we get ready, first of all, I just wanted to say first and foremost, I know we're a few days away from one of the biggest holidays of the year. To everybody, happy early Merry Christmas to all families, friends, loved ones all across the world, Steeler Nation who are out here watching this podcast right now. Some may be wondering where I've been at. I know it's been over a week. I apologize for that. But right now, getting ready to recap right now what the difference a week makes at this point in time. Yes, sir, I'm saying it. And I will say it as this way. I mean, I think the Steelers right now, you got to look at it this way. They have had their opportunities so far throughout the last 2 weeks, basically. And I remember when the Titans lost to the Texans at home in Tennessee, and the Steelers only had 3 losses in the AFC Conference at that point in time. They were 6-3, and you had the Titans drop from 6-4 to 6-5. Obviously, the Titans, they did not play an AFC opponent this past Sunday. They played the Saints. So that game had no significance other than the fact that with both teams losing, the Titans were able to edge the Steelers out of the playoffs for the moment after week 16 due to strength of victory. Bottom line. I mean, that's where really all it boils down to. Because right now, because going back in time, like I said, when the Titans did lose to the Texans, they dropped 6-5. The Steelers, all they just had to just do from that point was win their next 2 in a row against the Bills and the Jets, and they will have been in the playoffs this past week. They would easily been able to control their own destiny. Obviously, that is not the case right now. But I will say this. It is the most simplest way to put it in. And we're going to get into the playoff scenarios in just a moment. But I'm just going to start off with the easy one. We'll get into the other options in just a bit here. But the main thing is the simplest way to get in here. Here's what the Steelers need to focus on right now. If they're going to still try and have any hopes to make the playoffs, the easiest path is you win and a Titans loss. And these were both mentioned by Steelers.com, Teresa Varley. She can be followed at Teresa_Varley. And, of course, host of Steelers Live and also Steelers reporter on the sideline during the games, Missy Matthews. Should be followed once again at Missy_Matthews. Matthews. We're going to get to them a little bit later on. But again, if you guys want to feel free to dial in, or phone lines are open right now. Again, the number is 312-209-2232. Again, the number is 312-209-2232. You can hit me up on Twitter at Prodigy Richie, at Men of Steel CJR. And of course, my Instagram live stream, which is not happening right now, but you can catch it regularly going forward. Men of Steel Nation, and of course my YouTube channel, Men of Steel Podcast. And boy, I just gotta tell you right now, like I said, I'm not gonna lie to you. I definitely had tears choking back earlier today. I was pretty devastated, pretty bummed, like all Steel Nation is feeling right now. I mean, you're having. I mean, first and foremost, before we get anywhere, can we please take a moment right now? And I know a lot of people are more frustrated at the lack of execution on offense. And granted, the defense has been allowing a few big plays towards the end, but they are starting to get worn out down the stretch. It's obviously injuries are starting to take a toll. But the biggest thing, like I always said, right now with Mike Tomlin, I'm not going to make excuses for him. He knows he's not going to make excuses. The players are not going to make any excuses. It's all about putting the W on the board at the end of the day. It comes down to basic execution. I mean, take, for example, last week's game. I mean, when you saw the Pittsburgh Steelers, when they're at home, you would figure it would have been another victory in the Color Rush uniforms and would it be a special night. Obviously, that did not happen. But when you look at that point in time right there, it was arguably a scenario right there. And a lot of people were like questioning why were they passing more than they were running in that ball game. I mean, you had James Conner back, who you haven't seen in a long while. I think the last time he's been seen was since the Browns game. Safe to say. But in that game, the contest, the Steelers, they only rushed the ball 14 times for 51 yards, with James Conner only having 8 of those carries for 42 yards. And like I said, Benny Snell, he didn't really get many opportunities. He only had 2 carries. But you put the onus on Devlin Hodges, who threw for 38 passing attempts in that game. And for a guy like Devlin Hodges all year, that was his peak mark in his career so far since playing and starring with the Steelers. 38 times, and look what happened. It bit them in the rear end. And this is where I look at it right now, and like I said, you look at all the stuff that's been leading along the way over here, and I know a lot of people have been pretty grumbled, pretty upset. I know there's still some Mike Tomlin critics out there, but let's not kid ourselves for a moment here. Let's think about the season. First and foremost, the same people who have been praising this guy as potential coach of the year candidate if this team were to make the playoffs, which I still believe he could get that honor if they do find a way to backpedal in with a win and a Titans loss. Mike Tomlin, I'm going to just say this right now before we get any further. And I know it's been very upsetting, but let's think about this. This Steelers team, their season should have been done a long time ago. Done. When losing your quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger, and then not only further than that, you take it steps further. I mean, within the last year and a half, Le'Veon Bell, who did not come to an agreement on the contract extension, did not want to sign his franchise tag. And, of course, Antonio Brown, who definitely flipped out with Ben Roethlisberger and the coaching staff. I mean, which has been something that's been boiling up for a long time. And a lot of it aimed at Ben, which I understand some of it. But he moves on. He gets traded to the Raiders. I mean, not for a first round. I mean, it was a third and whatever else it was. I think it was a third and a fifth. But you look at it, you selected a guy like Devin Bush. But like when Ben Roethlisberger goes down, you give up a first and third round pick to get Minkah Fitzpatrick. And look at what happened since then. They've been the top team in takeaways, sacks, top 5 in total defense, and much more than that. And of course, they've been doing it with inexperienced quarterbacks here. And I got Freddie Williams here. Thank you very much, Fred. I appreciate you give me a like here and checking out the podcast here. I appreciate it. Welcome very much. First of all, once again, Merry Christmas to you and your family, and to everybody who's watching this right now, willing to stay up, spend a few minutes with me here at this moment. But I got Freddie Williams, like I said, he's making a comment right now on this, and one comment that he was saying on here was that in regards to this, the defense is too good to give up more than 10 points to either Buffalo or the Jets, but we don't adjust to any team because we don't have good coaches, just great motivators. I mean, that's true, but I mean, I got to believe, too, at the same time, I do believe Tomlin, yes, he is a motivator, but I'm really starting to believe he's got some good football acumen. He's got some good football IQ. I mean, yeah, it's one thing to motivate, but again, he is a former defensive back coach. I truly believe he's had a big-time hand on this defense, little by little. That was one of the biggest things they've been criticized for. They finally got their pass defense when the last 2 years adjusted. And look at what's happening. I mean, you look at where they are, and you can't say enough by what this team is doing. I will say this, so one thing at the end of the game that really caught my eye, but like remember your secondary coaches. I mean, you got Tom Bradley, who's been there since 2018. But like, I do believe that guy's been playing a prominent role in his defense, who's been assisting with key Butler's Terrell Austin. But speaking of coaches, and you saw offensive assistant and wide receivers coach, former 2-time Super Bowl champion and Super Bowl MVP, Hines Ward, which is clearly evident. There still seems to be somewhat of a rift with him and the current Steelers organization. The way he has not been putting his stamp of approval, the way things went down as a Steelers organization, where it's been going away from the style of Steelers football, or what once was known as a tight-knit locker room, playing physical football and focused football. But he was one of the guys who felt snubbed by Tomlin and the coaching staff from what it looks like, not being an assistant coach on the offense. So he gets an opportunity with the Jets, and he's able to beat his former team. And one of the things you saw him get the Gary Bath at towards the end, which he asked for. And I'm not going to hate so much on Hines Ward. I'm not going to lie to you. It irked me for the moment just seeing that. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's a war of nutrition. What it really does put into question is some of the coaches on Tomlin's coaching staff right now. Keith Butler seems to buy himself a little bit more time and stay with the organization as long as Tomlin sticks around. But it goes back to Randy Fichtner. And you look at the current Steelers coaching staff. I mean, when they lost Darryl Drake, you have your new wide receiver coach who's been there in 1998 with Hines Ward. Speaking of which, Ray Sherman. So you had a lot of stuff you had to deal with. And I know the Steelers have been dropping a lot of key passes. And a lot that was being made towards the end was one to James Washington, which is beautifully defended by the Jets defensive backs. And then, of course, Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm not going to lie to you, and this is my take on that final play of the game. I really felt that ball was a little bit wildly thrown by Hodges. I mean, a lot of people were nailing and beefing at Juju for not catching that type of ball, what a receiver should catch. I'm not going to lie to you, that ball was not on good target in my eyes. It was a little bit underthrown in some ways. And I'm not too I just feel like the timing was off. Obviously, I mean, it's fourth down at that point in time. It's desperation mode. You're trying to at least continue to move the chains, or if he catches it, he could possibly, arguably, go into the end zone and quite more than likely put the Steelers up by a point. I mean, 6 points plus the PA attempt. I'm not so sure. I just feel like right now, because I mean, you could also look at bigger moments in this game too. I mean, when you take a look at this game, I mean, there was also a point in time where Marquise Pouncey, he went down. He looked okay. He was getting back up, but then it looked like he had a knee injury at that time, and you saw what happened right there. I mean, when he went down, what happens on the very next play? BJ Finney, who's been a solid backup center to Marquise Pouncey, I mean, throughout this time, I mean, whenever filling in for him in lineups, and you look at it, I mean, all at this moment in time, I mean, it was sickening at the fact. I mean, after like the 1st and 10 at the Pittsburgh 42, I mean, where Marquise Pouncey was hurt, was injured during the play, had to be helped off the field. A few plays later, boom. I mean, like a loss. I mean, a fumble by Mason Rudolph due to the center right there. And they had to get off the field, turn the ball over on downs. I thought that was crucially key right there. It was 13-10 at that point. And the Jets did enough to move down and put themselves in a position where they were able to go up by a touchdown lead. Not a full touchdown lead, but you get the drift. So I thought those were very key moments right there. You can make the argument as well. I just felt, I mean, if you're talking about execution, I mean, which he hardly ever makes a mistake like that, boy, they pay for it big time in that game. So now let's get ready to go into the Steelers Ravens game that's be coming up. As everyone is aware right now, so the teams are still in contention for the playoff spots, basically. The teams who have something to play for, as everyone is aware, I mean, usually 9 times out of 10, those games do get flexed. And with the Steelers' case as well, their game against the Ravens, also the Raiders visiting the Broncos, and then you also got the Colts playing the Jaguars. Those games are all being flexed at 3:25 p.m. in the afternoon. And that I mean, right there, I mean, I mean, it's the Titans versus Texans, Colts versus Jaguars, Raiders versus Broncos, along with the Steelers Ravens game. As known by Teresa Barley, are going to be on at 3:25 p.m. Central Standard Time, and which I think makes sense. And speaking of which, too, another note for that game going into there, ESPN senior NFL insider Adam Schefter, who we followed on Twitter at Adam Schefter, Ravens will not play the following of their starters: quarterback Lamar Jackson, running back Mark Ingram, free safety Earl Thomas, same guy who concussed Mason Rudolph in the very first matchup of the season back in week number 5. Then, of course, you got right guard Marshall Yanda. And last but not least, defensive tackle Brandon Williams against the Steelers on Sunday. They will not be playing again. So, again, in case you guys are wondering, quarterback Lamar Jackson, running back Mark Ingram, free safety Earl Thomas, right guard Marshall Yanda, and defensive tackle Brandon Williams. They will not be in this game, I mean, for right now. So they're doing the smart thing, if you ask me right now. I mean, with Lamar Jackson, keeping him fresh for that first round bye. They got home field advantage all secured up. And, of course, by beating the Patriots earlier in the season on a Sunday night game. So, and I get it. There's a lot of time in between then where you don't want to risk an injury with a guy in Lamar Jackson. You don't want to take any chances, even just for a few snaps. I mean, obviously, too, you also want to play a little bit of devil's advocate, too, and because you're going to have 3 weeks in between that time before he plays his next game. I mean, from yesterday, I'm talking about. And I realize you want to keep yourself in rhythm, but I think more importantly, when you look at the history of mobile quarterbacks and guys that can pass, I'm not chancing anything happening to this guy. I'm keeping this guy fresh as a daisy. Smart move right there. The only thing that does concern me, I mean, this week will be the Chiefs and Chargers game. If you really think about it. I mean, the Chiefs, who will be at home hosting the Chargers, that's going to be a 12 o'clock game, a noon game. Because remember, the Chiefs also still have something to play for, too. I mean, for a first-round bye, since they did beat the Patriots, and they just need to win, have the Patriots lose, and they would sneak into the first-round bye. You also got to remember, too, with that being said, I mean, if that were to happen, there's no more higher the Texans will be able to go up. So that may intrigue them to rest some of their stars against the Titans. That's where it's going to be a little bit iffy right there, a little bit murky. Now, let's get back to the Steelers playoff clinch scenarios. Again, just to recap. Steelers win, plus the Titans loss. Boom, you're in the playoffs. Another way the Steelers can get into the playoffs is if for some reason, God forbid, the Steelers and the Ravens game ends in a tie and the Titans lose. So if the Steelers go 8-7-1 and the Titans fall to 8-8 against the Texans, Steelers would be in the playoffs. Or it could be a Steelers win plus a Titans tie. Steelers will get 9-7. Titans would just barely miss out 8-7-1. And these are both being known by Teresa Barley and Missy Matthews. Other scenario we got. Let's just say both the Steelers and Titans lose. You would then need the Colts to beat the Jaguars. You would need also the Raiders to lose to the Broncos. That happens, you get in. And the way that works is that the Colts, they are still in third place in the AFC South. The only problem that the Titans had to be had to reckon with and be concerned with is that they got a 2-3 record in the division. while the Colts have a winning record at 3-2. The Colts, as a reminder, are eliminated from playoff contention, as are the Browns officially yesterday. And with that being said, remember, even though they're totally out of the playoff picture, what ends up happening is that the Colts will move ahead of the Titans, where you apply a divisional tiebreaker. They will be 4-2, while the Titans would drop to 2-4 if they were to lose. And then the Steelers would edge out the Colts in tiebreakers. Again, as long as the Raiders lose. So Steelers and Titans lose. Colts beat the Jaguars. And the Raiders lose to the Broncos. Steelers get in the playoffs. And here's the craziest option right here. And just stay with me here, okay? Now, if the Steelers lose, Titans lose, and let's just say the Raiders do win, you'll need 4 more teams to lose. That would be the Bears losing to the Vikings. You would also need the Lions, who I believe are playing the Packers, I want to say, in the final game of their season. They'll be playing at home against the Packers. And then you would also need the Chargers to lose to the Chiefs. And then you would also, last but not least, need the Patriots to lose to the Dolphins. Okay, so again, as Steelers and Titans lose, and the Raiders beat the Jaguars, but yet, the Colts beat the Jaguars, excuse me. And then the Raiders beat the Broncos. The Steelers would need the Bears, Lions, Chargers, and Patriots to lose to get into the playoffs. Because what ends up happening in that situation, and the reason for that, is because the Raiders, if they win, they're edging out the Steelers in strength of victory, which is at about 33%, versus the Steelers, 313. Okay? So that's one thing to pay attention to. It's 32 versus 31%, basically. That's why it's important, because any of those teams win in the Bears, Lions, Chargers, and Patriots, coupled with that Raiders win and the Jaguars loss to the Colts and the Titans loss and the Steelers loss, the Steelers will definitely be eliminated. The Raiders will be able to sneak in, because the Raiders right now, they need to win with, of course, the Steelers and Titans loss. So that's where you want to be careful right there. Again, the number to hit up is 312-209-2232. Again, that number is 312-209-2232. Again, you can follow me on social media, on Twitter, at Project Richie. You can also check me out at Masteel CJR, Instagram, Masteel Nation, YouTube live channel, Masteel Podcast, as we get ready to the home stretch. Now let's get ready to wrap it up here on this edition of the Masteel Podcast. Let's get ready to rapid fire, baby, with some fair or foul to close things out, and hopefully things will get better throughout the week as we progress along. Fair or foul topic number 1 in this one. Mason Rudolph, do you guys think he gave up too soon after injuring his shoulder? I know he found that it was, I believe it was his left shoulder that was reported at the end of the game. Well, you also had guys like James Conner, who had a thigh injury, Marquise Pouncey with a knee injury. Not too sure the severity of those injuries just yet, but I'm going to have to say foul, because even though he did throw for about 129 yards with a touchdown, he played a hot hand, and a lot of people do believe, like Tunch Ilkin, that him being benched, it was a blessing in disguise for Mason Rudolph. I think he definitely learned a lot after that humiliation with Myles Garrett and then having a funky first half start to the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati, and having Hodges start over him, I think that definitely lit a fire under his eyes. And he definitely was rejuvenated, waiting for his opportunity to get called upon once again. That you cannot deny right there. I just feel, I mean, in that contest, I mean, what can you say? This is a guy who's been through his share of ups and downs, who was predicted. I mean, a guy who's been having the first round grade on him for being selected in the third round. He obviously was a guy who definitely needed to do some soul searching, figure out what he needed to do. And the thing is, he's going to be out for more than a couple of weeks. So he will be out of the playoffs during this time. So I'm going to say no, he did not give up. Obviously, I mean, that was definitely a tough situation right there. I mean, it just goes to show you how valuable Pouncey is in that moment. I mean, BJ Finney rarely slips up, but it was one of those moments where it's like, I was thinking, like, you know what? It sucks to see Pouncey go out there, 8-time Pro Bowler, and one of the best in the business today. But at the same time, too, it's just, you realize how important it is when you lose a value guy like that. And the price came with a very high premium to pay right there. So, and then let's get into fair or foul. Topic number 2. Steelers will once again get a miracle. Steelers are 4-8 in getting into the playoffs with some help. I'm going to say fair on this one, only because if you win, the simplest terms in Latin terms, Steelers win, Titans lose, you're in the playoffs. Simplest way you can do. That's what you really got to hope for. Here were the other scenarios that happened going back to 1976, when the Steelers were defending back-to-back Super Bowl champions, looking to try and three-peat. Remember, when they had that 1-4 start, just like how the Steelers did this year, they won 9 in a row, finished out the season 10-4. The only predicament was, despite those 5 shutouts and the monstrous roll they made, was that the final game of the season, the Raiders were playing the Bengals on a Monday night game. And if I'm not mistaken, because I learned this from America's Game, was that if the Bengals beat the Raiders, the Bengals will be in the playoffs over the Steelers. But if the Raiders beat the Bengals, they pretty much let the Steelers in the playoffs. What ended up happening? Raiders did end up beating the Bengals. They went on to a 13-1 season with their first Lombardi Trophy, where they beat the Steelers in the trilogy fight, where they met 3 straight years. Finally upended the Steelers in the AFC Championship game and wanted to win their very first Super Bowl. So that was the first tie-breaking scenario. I mean, where they needed help. Second one was 30 years ago, Christmas Miracle on Christmas night. The Steelers won their final game of the season against the Bucks on the road. And plus, they need losses by the Raiders, Giants, Dolphins, Colts, and the Bengals. All those losses happened. Steelers did win. Raiders, Dolphins, Colts, and Bengals did lose. Steelers got in. Remember, they beat the Tennessee Titans. Houston Oilers in the very first round of the playoffs, but ended up losing to the eventual AFC champion, Denver Broncos, in the divisional round. The third one where they were able to get into the playoffs, so they both of those in 76 and 89, they got in. The other one was in 1993, where the Steelers defeated the Browns, and then they had a Dolphins loss to the Patriots. and the Jets lost to the Oilers, they got in at 9-7 that year. Other time they got in, last one was 4 years ago. Steelers beat the Browns on the road, and the Jets lost to the Bills in Buffalo. Got to the playoffs. Where they end up going? As far as to the divisional round. Now, the other times where they did not get in successfully was 2000, 2009, 2013, 2018, which was last year. Steelers beat the Chargers. They needed the Jets loss, which happened. But the Colts did not lose to the Vikings because the Vikings pretty much had everything wrapped up. They had a divisional round bye. They were not the team at home field advantage, but they rested some key starters, and the Colts actually ended up beating them to get into the playoffs over the Steelers. 2009, Steelers beat the Dolphins in Miami, and then one of the tiebreakers was the Broncos losing, and they still needed the Raiders beat the Ravens. That did not happen. Ravens beat the Raiders and pretty much popped a balloon on the Steelers' defending Super Bowl year with not being in the playoffs. 2013, after starting off 0-4, the 2-4, 2-6, 5-6, 5-8, 8-8, had everybody lose except for the Chargers to the Chiefs. Ryan Succop missed a key field goal, but the NFL later admitted that the Chargers had too many men lined up on the field goal block, 7 men, which should have been a flag. Chiefs ended up losing that game in overtime to the Chargers, even though they rested most of their starters. And last but not least, where they failed to get in, last year, Steelers beat the Bengals, needed the Browns to beat the Ravens. Did not happen. And there you go. That's your recap right there. And that's going to do it and draw to a close for this edition of the Mass Steel Podcast. And once again, like I said, I've been going through a lot this last week. I had my mom's birthday last Tuesday. Happy belated birthday, Mom. And like I said, just getting ready for the Christmas holiday. My mind was just on other things the last week, just getting ready. But I just wanted to say right now, not only going to the Christmas year, and we got New Year's coming up along the way, but I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. This has been a very great, successful year for the Mass Steel Podcast since I started this thing back in October of 2018. I just want to say thank you very much to all the people on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. All you ladies and gentlemen have been nothing but a wonderful people that entertain and that follow here and talk nothing better about our Steelers. One thing I like to do here in the media field is cover a team I love, and I'm enjoying every moment of this. And it's a pleasure covering you, Steeler Nation. Again, like I said, season is not over with. Sucks that you have to win and have some help, or if you lose, you need some big time help. But it is what it is. I definitely want to say thank you to Mike Tomlin. Everybody should be saying thanks to Coach Tomlin. The lack of execution may sometimes be frustrating at times, but at the end of the day, one thing you cannot deny about Tomlin, every year with the exception of 2012, where the Steelers got eliminated in Week 16 against the Bengals, every year other than that, the Steelers' playoff fate has been determined down the wire. Whether it's trying to get in as a wild card, or they're already clinched as a wild card team and trying to clinch the division. You cannot deny the fact that Mike Tomlin has always got this guy's either in it or out of it. That's all you can ask for as a coach, and I'll always be proud of that. And he's did a great job. Obviously got a lot more stuff to look into. I don't want to see the offseason start early, but again, thank you, Coach Tomlin. Definitely room to get better. I mean, with this current group. And I like the fact he does not accept blame, but he always wants to just focus on themselves first and foremost. That's to make him a good coach. Better appreciate while we have it, regardless what happens. And once again, like I said, hopefully Brian Diarra, if you're out there listening, we got hook him up once again. Even you, Tony DeFeo. Hopefully we could talk once again soon on the Metal Steel podcast. Hopefully we'll be talking playoffs coming up soon, and some other exciting news maybe in the off season. But let's worry about that another time. Let's skip through week 17 and see what happens. As always, leave you. Don't be trolling. Be rolling. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. I gone.